Okay, so we're trying this again. So let me know if you guys can hear me. You should be able to hear me because I can see the little circle around my name going up and down. Um, it probably was just the StreamYard software that I was using. It probably just is not compatible with the mic that I'm using on this particular live. So that could possibly be why you guys didn't necessarily hear me. But I appreciate you guys for letting me know because I was just going to keep talking. And then I would have looked up and went back to try to make sure I didn't say anything ridiculous. And I would have been upset if I wouldn't have heard anything. So I appreciate you guys letting me know. But we are here, of course. I am Faith. So welcome on into the channel. I am your favorite chart interpreter, as well as Greek mythology enthusiast and everything else under the sun. Okay. And your favorite tarot reader. Can't forget about that. I didn't let go of, reading tarot. Okay. I'm not letting go of that, but I'm going to explain to you guys a little bit more about maybe kind of like what I've been going through a little bit here recently. Okay, so grab a tissue because you might be sad too. I doubt it. But the nodes, if you guys don't already know, the nodes are like moving. The nodes have moved. Okay, the nodes right now, or the nodal points of the moon, are in Libra and Aries. Now, I can't remember which one is North Node right now, which one is South Node, but all I know is that one of them is sitting in my 12th house, slowly making its way into my first house. So I have been going through it a little bit, and maybe I've been going through it a little bit prior to the nodal shift. But now, as it starts to get deeper into my 12th house, I'm really starting to feel the effects of it. But, a thing when it comes to being in the spiritual realm, that's why I've always said to you guys from the beginning that you have to be mindful whenever it pertains to when you pick up a set of cards or whenever you decide that you will be a part of this spiritual community. You have to know what door you're opening. Now, me, because I don't know my exact family history when it pertains to, who has powers here and who has powers there, I have an idea because of the way that I read and stuff like that. I have an idea of possibly where it came from, but it's not necessarily set in stone. Okay. But all I try to worry about in this particular point where I'm at, all I try to worry about is me. Okay. So as far as I am concerned, whenever I picked up my first set of cards or whenever I got involved in spirituality, like I had an idea that, okay, certain things may transpire that you've kind of signed up for because of what you decide to take on. Okay, but I guess I didn't really prepare myself like I would have liked to. Okay. Um so you know being in the spiritual realm, especially if you have a, let's say, an interesting gift, let's say that, okay? Because I feel like in everybody's own way, they're gifted in whatever way it could be. It could be clairvoyance, clairaudience, it could be mediumship, it could be cards, astrology, it can be any of that. I feel like everybody is, gifted in their own particular way. So let's just say, the interesting part about walking into this particular realm is what you may run into in the dream world. Specifically me. I know I haven't shared my chart with you guys, and one day I may decide to do that. I have nothing to hide, okay? And I have no reason to lie because my chart is what it is. I don't have to make up a time to say I was born here to try to like intimidate the people so you can see, so it'll look like in my chart that I'm this grandiose. I don't got time for that. It is what it is. Okay. So I have no reason to do all the extra stuff that I feel like a lot of people do, but that's my personal opinion. But I am very heavily Neptune centered. When I show you guys my chart at some point, you'll see what I'm talking about. So my 12th house, and I also have a Pisces moon. So remember I talked about that with Michael Jackson, how a Pisces moon can be somewhat of a limitation because you're bringing over 12th house themes and you're like attaching it to a moon energy when it comes to your feelings and perception and your mind. So it can be difficult. But either way, and my Jupiter hits my moon in Pisces, my Jupiter hits my Neptune hits my moon. So I am Neptunian heavily speaking, and also Plutonian. So that could also be why a lot of you, whenever I tell you I'm a Cancer, you feel like it's like you fell out the chair, like you can't believe I'm a Cancer, but I am a Cancer. But it doesn't come across that way, probably because of all that stuff going on in my chart. But since stepping into this particular realm, the dream world has just been fascinating to me. And it has its good things to me and it has its bad. It's good because it lets you know what's coming, but it's bad because it lets you know what's coming. So, ever since I stepped into the spiritual realm, I've just had these recurring dreams whenever it pertains to snakes. And I honestly, I'm kind of terrified of snakes. I am. I'm not even gonna lie to you, but crazingly enough, one of my favorite movies is Anacondas. So I'm afraid of snakes, but then at the same time, I'm so fascinated by the movie Anaconda. I know it doesn't make any sense, and that would probably make me crazier than, you know, anybody, but that's okay. It's just a thing, especially the third was it the third Anaconda movie they made, or is it the second one? Either way, with Morris Chestnut in there and can't remember, but it was The Hunt for the Blood Orchid. I love that movie. I really do. Like I can watch that over and over again. It's just something about it. So, and I don't know if maybe my spirit animal is actually a snake and I just don't understand that part of it. I don't think I don't know if I have Native American in my system. I'm not the one to sit out here and claim to be something that I'm not. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll do one of those little testament jiggers, whatever. Um, but it could be maybe my totem or my spirit animal, and I just, my fear is getting in the way of me understanding that part of myself. So I have dreams about snakes a lot, and it's terrifying, but also at the same time, I feel like it saves my butt. Okay. I actually, honestly, maybe because I think my grandmother may be Native American on my dad's side, and honestly, I think my spiritual gifts do come from my dad's side, but that's just what I feel intuitively. But nobody on my dad's side has actually explored the spiritual realm in the way that I have, so it's not really somebody I can go and talk to about it like that, and that's okay, you know. Um, but whenever I have a dream about a snake, it's so crazy to me because it's like the snake doesn't bite me. Most of the time, the snake is somewhat serving as like I guess a protector, okay? And I can kind of gauge the people and I can gauge the people that are in the house at the time whenever the snake is present, but the snake is not bothering me in that way. It's not trying to bite me or anything. It's just like there. So I see it as someone like a protector, but I recently had a dream that woke me up out of my sleep and it was about a snake as well, and the snake was rising up like it would strike, but it didn't. It just paused, almost just like I don't want to strike you because for whatever reason I'm not allowed to. And I woke up out of my sleep, right, and the snake was huge, like its face was a fat one. It was a fat face on that joker, and that's probably why I woke up, because I'm like, you are obese. I mean, but I woke up, I'm like, it's kind of weird for you to be so fat and to be a snake. So maybe that's why I woke up. And so I looked at it and it didn't strike. And I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. And that's another part that you guys I never really explained to you about the whole spiritual thing, that it's frustrating to be in this realm and you want to help people the best way you can. And it seems like every other month you're having to deal with the snake dream, and you can see actual people in the snake dream. And a good thing the snake is there, but who wants to go through that every other month? It's irritating. And even though I'm not being bothered, even though I keep on pushing, you can see how a person could get fed up with that in a way. And it's just like, why does it always have to be some BS? Why does it always have to be, you playing in my face? Because that's exactly what it is to me. That's how I see it. You playing in my face. And I don't like that, because I hate to say it, a lot of times I can see the people's exact face. And a lot of times, unfortunately, is people that I come across on my YouTube. And I'm just like, this is unfortunate. and it shows another side of the world that I don't like. And that can make somebody not want to do it, especially whenever you know that you have nothing but good intentions for people and you just really just want them to move through whatever it is that they are going through. That's all you want to do. But for some reason, they want to play in your face and they want to play in my 12th house, which I don't know why you're doing that because that's crazy to me. But this time, it didn't have to do with a YouTube person that follows me. This time it had to do with deal with somebody that had to deal with in the world, and it was just so irritating because they end up doing what I said, what I was figuring. They end up playing in my face and they tried to lie on me and accuse me of doing something that I did not do, to the point where they were trying to get me in trouble, and I was just so baffled. I know you guys probably don't, well, you should know me by now in some sort of way, but my biggest pet peeve, as I've said all the time, do not lie on me. I don't care who you are. Not even the president could lie on me because I will take a trip. I'm that serious about lying on me because I just don't do it because there's no reason for you to do that. And so that really just stuck me because I am sensitive to the core. You guys know that. It's not a secret. I am sensitive. So that happening, it was just like, "Oh my goodness, here we go again." Like, and then the crazy part is whenever they lie and they try to save face, oh my dear lord. Um so, you know, it's bothersome, it's troublesome because again, I keep on pushing on because I just know for a fact there's something deeper, something bigger that I don't understand. But that is, I don't like that. And that kind of turns me off sometimes from like doing readings and stuff like that because for some reason people get snappy with me whenever I do readings. I don't know what that's about, but it also gets redundant, and I don't really like redundancy, especially if we're not getting anywhere. That's the thing. I don't mind repeating myself if we get somewhere, but if we're not getting anywhere, I feel like that I am not being used to the best of my ability in the space that I'm in. So this is just me putting it into deeper perspective, so that you guys can understand that more. I don't like being angry. And whenever I see snakes in my dream, I really get angry. Then I start dipping into that eighth house energy of mine, which I and it's not in like that way where some people like try to do stupid crap and spells. No, I don't do that. It's just an immediate, I dip way into the eighth house, and it's just a feeling that I get into that is not safe passage. So I don't like dipping into that. And that's another thing as well. But I'm in maybe my Achilles heel is I'm very transparent. So you can tell. You can tell when I'm over it. You can tell when I'm probably about to cuss you out. You could just tell. But I really don't bother anybody until you bother me. So again, it goes back to my original point that maybe the snake is my totem in a way because snakes don't bother you unless you bother them. That is me. I am just laying there, admire the scales on my back. I'm about to get ready to shed my skin because we're about to go into a new season. And then here you go trying to step on me for whatever reason. And so now I want to feel like I want to attack you. So we're just going to go with that. I think my true totem animal at this point is a snake. So maybe I need to research that because that is me. That is me all the way. Don't bother me. Please. Don't step on me. Don't poke the bear because the snake will bite. And I'm a venomous, poisonous snake if I have to bite. I really am. I want to draw blood. I know that sounds bad, but for real, it really is that way for me. That's why I say I don't like going into that energy. But it only happens whenever people are bothering me, and it's so crazy to me. It's just like, just leave me alone. I leave you alone. Why you can't leave me alone? But that's kind of like what I've been going through since the North Node has moved into my 12th house. you know? And it's just a lot, okay? The last 3 days, I probably have cried 3 times every single day because I don't understand. It's like, have you ever been that kid where you don't understand why people are doing certain things and it makes you emotional because you don't know how to express yourself and let people know that what you're doing, I don't understand. I don't know why you're doing it, but it's hurting me. That's me. Like, why are you doing that? But one thing is for sure, I am vengeance. So I'm like a snake, but then I'm also like Batman. I'm like Batman because I need to get my vengeance. But it's not in that way. It's a different type of vengeance, if that makes sense. Okay. So yeah, I just had to explain that to you, you faithful listeners who are always here. Because and I had to get that off my chest too, because I'm like, my God, I've been sitting on this for 3 freaking days. Okay. 3 days. And I really wish I could come face to face with all these people, but for some reason, then they avoid me. It's like I'm not confrontational, but I'm confrontational whenever I gotta be confrontational because like we need to meet me in the boxing ring. That's kind of like where I'm at with it. Come on, bring it on. you know. But I will prevail. I will push through. Okay. I was talking to my dad. I think I was talking to my dad yesterday, and I was telling him about the situation that was going on. And he has become so soft because he is the person that raised me to kind of like be in that particular way. Like, don't let people run over you. And now he's become such a softie. And I'm like, what happened to you? And yesterday, I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna lay down. Like, what are you thinking? Like, who are you? And so I just couldn't even finish the conversation. I'm like, goodbye. I can't deal with you right now because that is just really is disheartening to hear. But it's okay. Um, but anyway, so let's get into the content. Enough of my story. I appreciate you guys for understanding. I really do. You know, um, because it's rough out here in these streets for a pimp like me. But I really do appreciate you guys, seriously. Every last one of you. I really do. And that's why I always say, that's why I always put people in my prayers because I'm genuine about that. Like, I really just, if they want to see me win, they need to win too, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Um, so let's talk about Hades. So I will read the story from the Encyclopedia of Greek Mythology. I will read that story first, and then we'll move over into the like astrology part because we know that Hades is tied to Mars, as well as tied to Pluto, right? So this is a little bit of a doozy because Hades itself is a little bit of a doozy. So I'm gonna read the story, and then we're going to, because I think this story may be like 3 pages, and you guys know how I am with words. Okay, it's a hit or miss depending on the day. But yeah, we're gonna try our best, and then I will probably find a chart that I can use as a good example so that we can see Hades at work. Because the interesting thing is that even though the Greek mythology story of Hades is not bad in that way, the astrological part of it can be a little bit difficult. Because in the asteroid book that I just downloaded, it talks about how Hades can be, substance abuse, poverty, ugliness, but actually ugliness is tied to Saturn. So, we might have to scratch out ugliness, but garbage, dirt, sickness, bacteria, loneliness, debasement, vulgarity, and crime. But also, the interesting thing as well is that Hades is connected with our past lives. And actually, that's in the book of rulership. I believe past lives is tied to the eighth house as well as the fourth house. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but I feel like I have. If I haven't, I'm mentioning it to you guys right now that the past life or your past lives, because some of you have more than one, some of you may just have one because you're new to this physical realm. You could be new to this planet, and that's okay. New to this galaxy. I'm actually looking at past lives right now. Where to go? Okay, past life. Okay, it's tied to the number 5. I think it's like past life and ancestors are kind of like maybe synonymous a little bit in this particular book. Past lives, okay, five, sun. So you have a bunch of different places that you can look for past life. Fourth house, your sun placement, and your eighth house. Okay. So, and if they connect, then that's how we tie it all together to kind of like get the big picture. But you guys know that I love doing past life readings anyway, so I could get to the bottom of it if you can't understand it in your chart. But we're going to look into the astrology of it after we read through the story. Okay. Um, because even though all I said was negative, another thing to mention as well when it comes to Hades or Pluto, I talked about on my Twitter where I said, people with heavy Pluto placements would do really well when it comes to politics because heavy Pluto placements talks about like preserving education, preserving like healthcare, social security, elders, like benefits when it comes to people that served in the military. All that is involved with heavy Pluto energy. Okay. All that is involved. So people with those particular places would do so great for countries or countries that have heavy Pluto placements. They put, universal health care and all that stuff on the top of the totem pole because it's very, very important to maintaining a society, to maintaining people and making sure that they're happy and they're healthy. I would say universal health care is probably a Plutonian thing just based off of what I've been reading, but that is up for debate. That's fine. Astrology is not, to me, astrology is not it has to be this. No. Because science, there's different ways, there's different methods to cure a body. That's science. So it can be challenged. That is fine. I don't know why a lot of astrologers got the stick up their ass if we're going to be honest, and I would not categorize myself as a seasoned astrologer. They need to be more open-minded. So it's kind of weird how a lot of them are not, and they just go too much about, well, it has to be this because that's what the book says. Well, books can be challenged, laws can be challenged you know so let's start with the story of Hades. And I think I have the Wikipedia page pulled up actually for Hades, so you guys can have a visual aid, I guess. So here's our visual aid for Hades. Okay, here he is. This is on Wikipedia, or if you have the encyclopedia that I dropped in the last video, then there you go. As you can see here, they talk about Hades was the eldest son of Kronos and Rhea. And if I'm not mistaken, Rhea may have been sister to Kronos. We will read the story of Kronos because Kronos is Saturn, very, very important. But anyway, to continue, although this also made him the last son to be regurgitated by his father. Remember, in the Greek mythology story, Kronos ate all of his children because it was prophesied to him that he was going to be over of his children. So to make sure that didn't happen, he decided to eat them. Now, to continue, Hades and his brothers, Zeus and Poseidon, those are his two brothers, okay, there's other children as well, defeated their father's generation of gods, the Titans, and claimed rulership over the cosmos. Hades seized the underworld, Zeus the sky. That I feel like a little bit is a misconception here when it pertains to maybe one day we'll read Dante's Inferno because I think Dante's Inferno pretty much highlights what it will be like if we were to go down into the underworld to go to Hades. So we may need to take a look into Dante's Inferno as well if I can find the book. I remember we're reading about it in elementary school. Why I was reading about it in elementary school, I don't know, but we were reading it. Um, I'm gonna have to find that. There is a movie that I remember going to see with all my little friends years ago. It was called As Above, So Below. And that is, I feel like, a live action depiction of Dante's Inferno. If you haven't seen the movie, it is a scary movie. I'm not going to lie to you, but it was pretty eye opening. The different levels of, like, quote unquote, hell and stuff like that, going into the catacombs. I mean, it was pretty good, even though I did cover my face for like 50% of the movie, but I heard what was going on. So that's all that matters. So one day after we finish this, we'll maybe pivot and talk about Dante's Inferno. Maybe. So the misconception there a little bit, I think it's almost like they make it seem like that Hades received the underworld because he was bad, but he just received it because that is just what happened. They were just like it's almost like if you draw straws or if you do rock paper scissors. I can imagine it like that. We're going to do rock paper scissors, and if I win I get heaven, if you lose you get hell. And then we have the outlier over here who gets the sea. So I don't really think it was one of those things where it's just like Hades bad. We got to give you underworld because you're just such a terrible human being. But that was the misconception, I would say, in some sort of a way. Now to continue a little bit more on this Wikipedia page, um, Zeus received the sky. After they defeated the Titans and they claimed rulership over the cosmos. Poseidon was handed down the sea, with the solid earth, long the province of Gaia, available to all three concurrently. In artistic depictions, Hades is typically portrayed holding a bident and wearing his helm with Cerberus, the three-headed guard dog of the underworld. Is it not interesting that a lot of this symbolism is also used in the magical world of Harry Potter? So I believe that entire world is just a depiction of of mythology, astrology, and asteroids. That's opinion, because Sirius Black is literally an asteroid in astrology, along with other things as well. Okay, so that's just a little bit of the information, okay, for Hades before we kind of like get into the story. So as far as the story goes, we already talked about how Hades is the son of, Kronos, mother to mother of uh son to Rhea, excuse me, the brother of Demeter, Hera, has Poseidon, and Zeus. So we have, I guess, three girls and three boys. This is what I'm looking at here. I'm not sure if Demeter is a woman, but I think she would be. So Hades' realm is the underworld, the kingdom of all dead souls. Together with his wife Stephanie, who joins him in ruling the underworld, they are the prime deities of the underworld. The name Hades, according to ancient etymology, just a second. Okay, apologize about that. Had to open the fruit neck. Anyway, so Hades means invincible. But I kind of talked about that cloak of invisibility. I think I mentioned that on the air. I don't know what Greek mythology reading I did last, but I did mention that. Hades is sometimes called the ruler of the invisible world or the underworld. His helmet, the cape of Hades, causes its wearers to become invisible. What I just say, the cloak of invisibility. So whenever you put on Hades's helmet, then you too can become invisible. That is, I'm assuming, like the text says, is I his what is it? His weapon. That is a weapon that probably was carved out to him by, I don't remember the weapons maker in Greek mythology. I think the weapons maker is the husband or was the husband to Athena before the affair. So that may be Hephaestus. I think he might be the weapons maker. But anywho, so, Hades was sometimes conceived of as the other Zeus, but unlike Zeus, no cults were dedicated to him. He was also referred to as Pluto, meaning wealth. I've said it before that Pluto is extreme bouts of wealth. It is wealth that you cannot touch. I mean, Jupiter gets a lot of credit, Venus gets a lot of credit. Okay. The moon, I don't feel gets enough credit for wealth. When, if you look in the book of rulership, which is on my website, if you haven't downloaded it by now, you should have it. In the book of rulership under the moon, it says accumulated wealth is tied to that particular planet. So Pluto and the moon are very, to me, underrated planets when it pertains to wealth. But it's underrated because these are probably people that you would not expect to be wealthy, because I can see in a way Pluto can kind of be, because it can be underrepresented, underserved in a way, because the big thing is always Zeus. Zeus did this, Zeus did that, Zeus is so great, Zeus is this, Zeus is that. But Pluto gives me that energy where you slip under the radar, you slide through the cracks when it pertains to work and wealth, because Pluto is going to do the jobs that nobody else wants to do, but people don't realize it until Pluto makes a name for itself doing the jobs that other people don't want to do. So I don't care what sign you are. I don't care if you're an Aquarius. I don't really care if you're a Leo. If you look in your chart and you have heavy moon or maybe heavy Pluto, I would probably assume at that point that you would probably be somebody where you're going to do jobs or be in careers that are completely undervalued, but the return on the investment is exponential. Like the person where they probably dress, they're not dressing very Venetian, because Venetians like to dress up. They like to dress the par. Just a second. Venetians like to dress the par. They want to wear all their gold, their chains, their shoes. They want to do that. Good for them. Good for them. But Venus, everybody can touch Venus. Everybody, if you've ever heard the saying, especially if you've had a business, there's enough money to go around. To me, that is a very Venetian saying, because that's what it is. Venus is enough for everybody to touch. And I know that sounds bad. We're going to go back to the mythology story of Venus. Let's be honest. I mean, she was portrayed in that manner, in my opinion, as a goddess that everybody almost can touch, because look what happened to her. She was paraded around, she was humiliated in front of everybody. It was almost just like, look here, everybody. My wife is a cheater. Go ahead, have a look, have a touch, because she thinks it's okay for her to be a cheater. But in her mind, she probably was just rebelling because she didn't want to be married to the person that she was married to, and she'd rather be married to Aries, whatever the situation is. There's enough money to go around. Look at it, everybody. Look at Venus. There's enough money to go around, which is why I don't really understand the concept of greed or jealousy, because of the fact that Venus says there's enough money to go around. You know, you can start the same business as your neighbor and get the same amount of money or more, because there's enough money to go around. Money is always circulating. Money is always circulating through the universe. Money is always being printed. So what makes you think that there's not enough money to go around if they can just print a dollar and add value to it? So that's why I said the concept of jealousy, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But back to Hades and wealth and Pluto. Hate, and I think another thing as well is why he's kind of just like underrated, because it's one of those things where for him, he takes the job that's given to him and he makes the best of it. He probably makes that job more fearful. He probably, I mean, maybe he makes the underworld more appealing than Zeus's realm, which then causes an issue, because now Zeus, if that was the story, if this was the story, maybe it is, you make the underworld look so appealing that now heaven is like, okay, it almost comes across like people are just like, okay, if I go to heaven, fine. If I don't, whatever. But the underworld carries this energy that the heaven in a way doesn't carry. So then you probably may run into a situation where now, you may even possibly have Zeus being jealous of Hades, because it's just like, how did you do that? Well, because Hades was underrated. Hades took a job that you didn't want to do, nobody else wanted to do. It's like, I'll do it and I'll build it. I see that when it comes to heavy Pluto and heavy moon energy. I have no problem building. I have no problem doing the job that you don't want to do, because guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a empire out of this job that you feel like is you're too good for. You know? So, to continue with where to go? Okay, so in the Roman period, Hades or Pluto was merged with a similar god Dis. Hades' origins is as follows. Kronos, I did say that. Kronos married his sister Rhea. Rhea gave birth to the Olympian gods, including Hades, but Kronos swallowed each child old shortly after they were born. When Zeus, the youngest child, was born, Rhea wrapped up a stone in swallows and gave it to Kronos in place of Zeus. Zeus forced Kronos to disgorge his other children into the world. Hades joined Zeus and Poseidon in the Titanacemy, I think that's how you say it, the protracted battle of the Olympian gods against the Titans. Zeus eventually prophesied that he would unseat his father. So Kronos eating his children was pointless because the prophecy was going to live on anyway. Now, we're going to have to read, because I don't know gods or goddesses in this encyclopedia are tied to prophecy, but we're going to have to figure that out, because with that being said, depending on what that asteroid is in somebody's chart, if it's in a very strong position, we have a prophet. We have someone that can literally prophesize events that actually come to pass. But know, if you have that power or somebody has that power, a lot of people aren't really going to want to deal with them, because nobody wants to be really told something is going to happen and it happens. Because then they're going to look at you like a freak. Like, why do you know this? How do you know this? Okay. So we'll have to look and see what asteroid that is. It may be asteroid, what's the name of what's the name of the um Merlin. I think that would be the asteroid that could show prophesizing, or a gift for prophesizing. But that's not really Greek mythology. That is like folklore, I guess. So we got a lot of content to go over eventually, but we'll get there. So to continue with the story, the Olympians triumphed over the Titans, which is what we already talked about in the Wikipedia article. Poseidon was given the sea. Zeus was deemed the ruler over the heavens. Hades' reign extended over the underworld. According to Homer, the gods determined this division of the world by casting lots. What did I say? Rock, paper, scissors. Pull a stick. If your stick is shorter, then guess where you're going. So it wasn't based off of their character. It wasn't based off of prophecy, even. It was simply based off of pull a stick, do rock, paper, scissors, and that's how we're going to decide this situation. The myths concerning Hades are few. In Homer's Iliad, Hades is wounded by Heracles during an encounter in Pylos. The most important myth of Hades is the abduction, of Persephone, which is Hades' wife. The abduction of Demeter's daughter, Persephone, is vividly described in Ovid's Metamorphoses. Hades seized the girl from among her maiden companions in a Sicilian meadow. Demeter refused to return to Olympus, but wandered over the earth seeking her daughter. In her grief, she neglected the harvest, and a famine ensued. I don't know if Demeter or Demeter is an asteroid, but we will look it up in Astro later on. Probably won't be on this live. So finally, Zeus persuaded Hades to return Persephone because, of course, with Demeter kind of like, and maybe, the Empress card in tarot is somewhat similar to Demeter. Because um, if you look at the scenery in the card, she's in the middle of her harvest, right? She's harvesting things. So my assumption would probably be Demeter is either the Empress or she is the Queen of Pentacles. Because the Queen of Pentacles also sits in a harvest as well. But the difference Queen of Pentacles is she's dissatisfied at this point, and now the harvest around her is starting to dwindle. So maybe that's Demeter, you know? It could be. So finally, Zeus persuaded Hades to return Persephone, but she had eaten one or more pomegranate seeds while in the underworld, and she was fated to remain there for part of every year. What does that story sound similar to? The story of Adam and Eve and the forbidden fruit tree. Now, of course, there's nothing in this story about Persephone being coerced, being forced to eat the pomegranate seeds. She more than likely was eating it because she's hungry, you know, not realizing that you're not supposed to eat certain things. And it's actually very interesting because pomegranate seeds are actually depicted on the Empress card, and I'm not the High Priestess card. So I'm actually going to pull up a picture, High Priestess card, tarot. I'm actually going to pull up a picture so you guys can see, because I know some of you don't read the tarot like that, so it's kind of hard to picture it in your mind of the pomegranate seeds. But here is a picture. Okay, I'm going to share this tab. So see right here, all that back there is pomegranate seeds. So what if, this is my opinion, what if the woman that sits on the throne of high priestess is Persephone, who would entail, or who that would mean that she is the wife of the underworld. She is the wife of Hades. If we really just want to stick the maybe book reading to the high priestess. I know, yes, the moon, I forgot the name of the moon god, but remember we talked about that on the last live. But the pomegranates here are just too telling. And then the high priestess sits in between two pillars of light and dark. Persephone is able to roam the realms between the underworld and earth. Remember that she's given that particular time of a year where she can roam the earth and she doesn't have to be in the underworld. So I'm thinking that the high priestess is Persephone in this regard. I forgot the name. Is it Artemis? There it is. This Artemis is the goddess of the moon. But nowhere in the story that we read about Artemis does it say anything about pomegranate seeds. But it does when we talk about Persephone. Hence why I've said all the time in readings that when the high priestess is in reverse, she can be a terrible woman. She's scolded, she's bruised, she may be battered, she's possibly dealt with trauma when it comes to a failed marriage or more, or a relationship, or childbirth, because we know childbirth can be very traumatizing. When I think of pomegranate seeds, it makes me think of birth for some reason. And then she also has the Torah underneath her. So, and I don't know why for me the Torah in this instance makes me think prophecy. So so again, she whenever she's in her best, she prophesizes. But we also don't know exactly what's written on the Torah. We don't necessarily know what's written on this contract. I feel like it's a contract that the high priestess has underneath her arm. We don't know what's written on the contract. So, in some sort of a way, I can also see contracts possibly being tied to the high priestess. You know, that's just me. That's my own interpretation. So let's go back to where we were at. So, to continue with this story, after Persephone ate the pomegranate seeds and then she was fated to the underworld. Oh, I'm hungry. I hope you didn't hear that. She was fated to the underworld, to remain there for every year. Now, Persephone's time in the underworld coincides with winter. Okay. The harvest. Normally whenever things are really growing that great because it's cold as hell, you know. And her reappearance above coincides with summer. But when you think about it, winter, the you know, uh, the thing about winter is, they talk about, of course, the coldness, the darkness, the days. It's like daylight time. The days become longer, right? Is that right? I think so. And it is just symbolized that way when we look at the high priestess again, the pillar of dark, pillar of light. Maybe the light signifies spring, summer, and this signifies fall, winter, the time whenever Persephone becomes depressed because she has to be in the underworld. Whereas when springtime comes, that's whenever she can be at her best. Let's go back again. Like Hades, Persephone occupies a dual role. As Demeter's daughter, she is connected with youthful vitality, somewhat of like the moon, but as goddess of the underworld, also connected with death. Now, here's another thing I want to point out as well. If we go back here with the high priest, the letter J is tied to the energy of Saturn. Okay? Saturn is what? Old age, time. We know in this instance, mythology, Saturn is tied to Kronos. Saturn is, Titans. It's also structure. It is the new world order. It's order, period. Saturn is depicted in a lot of our villains, quote unquote, that we see Star Wars, Thanos, Bane. If we want to talk about Batman, um, I was about to say the joke, but he's not a big enough of a superpower villain for me. But I would say, oh shoot, I gave it to Bane, so maybe I could have to give it to Joker, but I don't know about that. Maybe he could be, but specifically, um, the the ruler, I forgot the guy's name in Star Wars. The big one, bigger than Darth Vader. I forgot his name. It's drawing a blank. But especially Thanos. Thanos to me is peak Saturn energy. Cuz in a way, Saturn in a way I can see in a way for structure to happen, some cleaning up has to be done, right or wrong. When you organize your house, some stuff has to be thrown away. Stuff has to be organized. So, I guess in a way, Thanos kind of got the point, even though it wasn't, even though, humanity had to suffer, but in his mind, it's almost just like the universe needs to be corrected because all these people they're running amok and we need structure. Structure has to be done. And unfortunately, maybe part of that structure, a part of that is death. Unfortunately, you know. I don't want to say it, but if we remember you guys, I pulled the chart for whenever C19 was actually discovered. If you remember, we saw that C19 was a what? A Capricorn stellium. So you see what I'm saying? It's almost like in a manner you have someone who plays God on the physical realm. And they themselves, in turn, have the mindset of Thanos that the only way for structure to be achieved, death has to happen, even if that means a famine. But we can almost, in some sort of a manner, tie it to Persephone or, yeah, tie it to Demeter or Persephone as well. Because what did Demeter do whenever her daughter was stolen? She brought a famine on the earth. No food, nothing is growing. That's a problem. But we also know Saturn is a very cold, dry planet. Okay. Now, B on the other side of this pole, B is tied to Venus, aka Athena, crazy enough, I guess, Venus and Saturn, whenever they are in connection, that is can be a very long standing marriage, relationship, business. Because we know Venus wants to beautify things and Saturn wants to add structure to the beautification of things, but Saturn also wants you to realize it's almost like there is no beauty in a way without pain. It's almost just like, and we know Venus is tied to relationships, it's tied to marriage. So in some sort of marriage, man, it's almost like relationships can be painful. But Saturn says that there's room for growth if you organize, if you heal, if you put your minds together, if you do all these good things that appease Saturn, it's going to be a beautiful exchange. It's going to be a their Zeus. It is thus appropriate that Hades' union with Persephone does not result in any offspring. Remember we talked about it with goddess Artemis, who is tied to the moon. She didn't have any offspring as well. Her, you know, Artemis for her, it's about chastity, virginity, no kids, It's like, I guess in a way for her, she sees it as keeping your body pure. I don't know if that would make sense. But Hades' kingdom is seldom visited by the living, and of the dead, only Ecclestus and Eurydice were permitted to return to the world above. Although in Eurydice's case, the return to life was ultimately unsuccessful. So only two people have literally been to the underworld and made it back to tell the story. We have Ecclestus and Eurydice. On the rare occasion when a hero such as Odysseus or um, Aeneas travels to Hades, they must pay their respects to Hades and Persephone. So it almost feels like bowing to me, you know? It's almost like one of those things, um, I don't know, giving your respects to rulers or so. It's giving very Hades and Persephone type of vibe. But anyway, so you must pay your respects to the husband, or you must pay your respects to the man and the woman who rules dominion over the underworld. There's no way around that. Others who, through guilt or courage, trespass in Hades include Heracles and Theseus. Theseus's friend Pirithous, I think that's how you say it, decided to kidnap and marry Persephone. That's a big no-no. Theseus' friend kidnapped the woman ruler of the underworld. Why would he do that? Why he would do that? I don't know, because that's nuts. Now, Theseus was in cahoots with his friend in a way, in terms of kidnapping and trying to marry Persephone. Now, this attempt was unsuccessful, and because of this, they both were imprisoned by Hades, of course. Heracles' visit to the underworld while he was performing his 12th labor had better results. Persephone welcomed him and allowed him to take Cerberus, the three-headed hound dog that guards the entrance of Hades or the underworld. Heracles was also given permission to rescue Theseus and, in some versions, Pirithous from their underworld prison. In classical art, Hades was commonly depicted as a bearded, solemn figure. Hades' abduction of Persephone was a popular visual theme. An example is a red figure Hydra from the 4th century that shows a fleeing Hades with Persephone in his grasp. Um, I don't think well, I can't. Let me see if I can find the picture of this. I don't know. I don't think I'm still sharing. No, I stopped screen sharing. Yeah, I accidentally hit the button, so it stopped screen sharing. But let me see if I can pull up this picture of the underworld. thing. By Fresco Luca Giordano. Giordano. Hades. Here we go. Oh, this is a nice picture. This is a nice picture. This is a nice picture. I felt like radio just then. This is a nice picture. If it loads. But anyway, so yeah. Once it loads, then I'll show you guys the picture. So to continue with the story, the myth of Persephone as an allegory of the afterlife was used by artists on sarcophagi. A wall painting from a royal tomb at Vergina, dating from the 4th century BCE, shows the main iconographic elements of this theme: a bearded Hades carrying off the struggling Persephone in his chariot. Post classical representations include Luca Giordano's fresco Pluto abducting Persephone of 1682 to 1683, and Gian Lorenzo Bernini's The Abduction of Persephone of 1622, which forms a thematic pair with the Apollo and Daphne sculptural group. In their associations with the fertility of the earth, Hades and Persephone are sometimes shown with attributes of a cornucopia or vegetation, as in an Attic red figure Kylix from circa 450 BCE. And apparently, this painting is in the British Museum in London. Apparently. What is the buzzing about? Anyway, did the picture load? Still didn't load. Oh, there it goes. Okay, let me show you guys this picture so you can see. It's a bit chaotic. There you go. This is the Luca Giordano's depiction of Hades. I believe right here where I'm circling is probably these two. You see the boobage, so I'm pretty sure that's Persephone. And there's Hades. They're underneath the cloak. And then, that may be like the guard that you have to pass, or the guard that takes you in the boat to get to the underworld. But again, you must pay passage. And that's the thing when it pertains to the passage to the underworld. A lot of people don't want to pay it because it requires a blood sacrifice. Sort of like what people talk about in the entertainment industry, blood sacrifices being made. That's very similar, I would say, to the price that you have to pay to get into the underworld. Okay. So let's continue with the story because there's more. How exciting. So this is another story of Hades or the underworld. The I don't know how eponymous realm, I believe that's how you say it, of Hades, the ruler of the kingdom of all dead souls. Dead souls whose bodies have received proper burial are brought to Hades by Charon, who ferries them, and this would be Charon right here. And I was thinking that he is one of the guards of the underworld. Here he is with the little sky. I don't know how you say it. The Grim Reaper's weapon that he carries. That's the thing. Now, Charon ferries them across the river Styx. This is Styx. This is the river. You see, Cerberus is right here, the three-headed guard dog. Very small, but very lethal. Okay. The river Acheron flows through Hades, and the river Lethe brings oblivion to those who drink its waters. I don't know if that's depicted in here somewhere in the picture. Maybe not. Cerberus, the three-headed dog, right here, guards the entrance to Hades, providing a gruesome welcome to new arrivals and preventing any who try to leave. Hades' kingdom is seldom visited by the living. On the rare occasion when a hero such as Odysseus or Aeneas travels to Hades, and I'm assuming they probably are in a boat somewhere. Maybe that's depicted in this picture. Okay. Where'd it go? So if a hero tries to travel to Hades, they must pay their respects, like we said before, to Hades and Persephone. Others through guilt or courage trespass in Hades. So these three heroes tried to trespass in the underworld: Heracles, Theseus, Orpheus. Of the dead, only Ecclestus and Eurytus were permitted to leave. Minos, some R name, Achis are the three judges of the underworld. It kind of feels like they're over here because we have like, and maybe he is the third. So we have like two people over here communicating. He's wearing like the head of the dog, which I'm assuming is similar to Cerberus. And then we have this guy on the rock. And we have these individuals trying to get there. They're in the river of Styx, of course. Now, in Virgil's Minos has the task of deciding whether a soul will proceed to Elysium or Tartarus. And in Dante's Divine Comedy, Minos directs the soul to the appropriate circle of hell. Hence, like I said, Dante's Inferno. And let me actually see if I can get a picture of Dante's Inferno. I think I'm learning more talking to you guys than I probably learned about this whenever I was studying it. But maybe at the time, I just wasn't ready to receive the information. Trying to get a good picture of Dante's Inferno. Um, well, I'll just get the one from National Geographic. It kind of has like an artistic type of thing to it. But yeah. Dante's Inferno is a journey to hell and back, but I would say with that being said, it pretty much just symbolizes the journey that one of the heroes tried to take to the underworld and they were very unsuccessful. Dante's Inferno. Yes, so you see right there. This is the depiction that, the colored version. And then we have this one. This is from Quizlet and we can't make it bigger. I'm trying to see if I can make this Quizlet one bigger because it actually breaks up Dante's Inferno by I guess like stages, so it tells you like it's this stage, is that stage, is that stage. So I'm trying to see if I'll be able to actually look at this, but it may not let me look at it. Yeah, it's blurred out. That's unfortunate. That's okay. But anyway, so I'll go back to the original picture. So anyway, in Book 11 of the Odyssey, Circe sends Odysseus to consult the seer Tiresias in Hades. Following her directions, Odysseus and his crew sail to the end of the world to find Hades. Odysseus offers sacrifices to the dead, promises to bury the dead of his companion Elpenor with the proper rites, and calls on Persephone. But you see, Odysseus's sacrifice is his partner, his lover. This is how serious it gets for people that want to venture to the underworld. So serious that you sacrifice your partner, your wife, your confidant, however you want to label them. That is the price that one must pay to reach hell, underworld, Hades, however you want to say it. Tyrus's ghost appears before Odysseus now, and after drinking the blood of the sacrificed animals, prophesies a treacherous journey home for Odysseus and his crew. Odysseus also speaks to his mother's ghost, whom he cannot embrace, but who recognizes and speaks to him after she also has drunk sacrificial blood. Following the appearance of his mother, a host of female ghosts sent by Persephone, the mothers of heroes, Alcme, Eridan, Antiope, Leda, Megara, speak to Odysseus. The ghost of Agamemnon comes before Odysseus. He is enraged at his murderers, his wife Clytemnestra and her lover Agast- Agastus. Odysseus also speaks with other heroes of the Trojan campaign, who are Achilles, Antilochus, and Patroclus. I think that's how you say it. These names are so hard. God bless the child who has been named after a Greek god or goddess. Okay. Um, he he attempts to make amends to Ajax, to Ajax, whom he defeated in the contest over Achilles' arms, but Ajax cannot forgive him and refuses to speak to him. I know this story is probably confusing, but we'll just have to circle back and actually go over the story because this all just leads to Hades, okay? Odysseus sees Orion hunting in Hades and finds Minos holding court as a judge in the underworld. Remember, if you don't remember, Minos, another R name, and Achis are the three judges of the underworld. So Odysseus talking to Minos is not shocking because he's supposed to, because Minos is a judge in the underworld. So once Odysseus sees Orion hunting in Hades and finds Minos holding court as a judge in the underworld, he also sees the less fortunate inmates of Hades. So this is Odysseus coming. Odysseus has gained passage to the underworld because he gave up the necessary blood sacrifice to go and see Hades. So he is getting a play by play view of what the underworld looks like. So he's seeing all these people. He's seeing Orion. And to him, he's probably shocked because it's like, Orion, what your ass doing down here? You late for dinner, it could be. And so he sees, like it says, less fortunate inmates of Hades. Titus, tormented by vultures, who was eating his liver. Tantalus, with food and water continually receding from his grasp. And Sisyphus, eternally pushing his enormous boulder. But as you can see, just based off of what Odysseus is seeing, it's almost like these people are what? They're doing torturous things in a manner. Sisyphus is constantly pushing an enormous boulder. That is torture within itself. Nobody wants to push a boulder for eternity. Nobody wants to have their liver eaten by vultures for eternity. But that's what's happening to Titus. Tantalus, with food and water continually receding from his grasp. Tantalus is being starved to death. He can't grasp food or water. That is the torturous part of Hades, of the underworld, of the dead souls. Now, what they did, I don't know. Okay. Odysseus comes upon Heracles. Heracles, what are you doing in hell? And Heracles is probably like, a funny story. I tried to overthrow somebody and it backfired. But anyway, Odysseus comes upon Heracles, who is still powerful in death. Though he had hoped to speak with more heroes, Odysseus is overcome by the crowd of ghosts around him. See, it seems like Hades or the underworld is where all the heroes go that couldn't cut it in heaven. Or is that the truth? We don't know. So, where is it? Odysseus is overcome by the crowd of ghosts around him. Now, this is whenever he is expecting to see all these heroes and he just gets surrounded by ghosts instead. He turns back to his ship and he speeds away. So, Odysseus has been spooked. He's been spooked by the torture, by seeing the torturous things going on that heroes are having to endure. Now, mind you, these are heroes that have actually saved somebody, did something heroic, but yet they still end up in the underworld. Why? Mm. So as Odysseus is running back to his boat and speeding away from Hades, the next morning, having reached safety out of, the underworld, Odysseus and his crew fulfilled their promise to the ghost of Elpenor, which was Odysseus's partner before he killed her, and performed the proper burial rites for his corpse. In book 6 of the Aeneid, Aeneas descends to Hades to communicate with his father. Aeneas was instructed by the Cumaean Sibyl on how to accomplish this, perform the burial rites for his dead shipmate, and obtain the golden bough for Persephone. When he had fulfilled his prescriptions and offered animal sacrifices to both Hades and Persephone, the Sibyl led him into Hades through gloomy halls where he encountered grief, conscience, disease, old age, dread, hunger, and poverty. What does that sound like to you? The seven deadly sins: grief, conscience, disease, old age, great. I mean, I'm not saying that these are the seven deadly sins, but it sounds like that to me. Further on, Aeneas recognizes war, strife, death, and his twin, sleep. The inhabitants of Hades include centaurs, beasts, ghosts, and famous monsters such as Briareus, the Chimera, the Gorgons, the Harpies, and the Cycla. The Sibyl guided Aeneas past the crowd of dead souls, awaiting Charion's transport to Hades. Now remember, Charion is the guard to how you get across the river of Styx. Okay. The Sibyl gave Cerberus, the three-headed dog, drugged food to enable Aeneas to enter Hades. Strike one. They're drugging the guard dog that protects all from entering the underworld. That's screw up number one. Let's move on. In the fields of mourning, oh my god, am I on something? Anyway, in the fields of where to go? Where to go? Where to go? Where to go? In the fields of mourning, an area for those who suffered cruelly in their love, Aeneas encountered Dido, the lover he abandoned, but she refuses to speak to him. Further on, Hades divides into Elysium and Tartarus. Tartarus, guarded by the Hydra, is reserved for the worst transgressors, mortal or immortal. The Titans were co-signed to Tartarus by Zeus, and they were joined by others who earned the enmity shoot of the gods, including Ixion, Sisyphus, Tantalus, Titus. Aeneas found his father in the fields of Elysium, where it's odd because now that I'm reading that, if I'm not mistaken, I remember. Oh, I need to go pick up my groceries, you guys. Um, in particular movies, I remember them talking about Elysium as if it's like this nirvana, as if Elysium is in the kingdom of heaven. Come to find out, Elysium is in hell. This is a travesty. But anyway, let's finish the story. And you know what I'm starting to think? Elysium, if I want to place a tarot card with it, Elysium looks like the temperance card in the tarot deck. Look at the picture of Elysium. Because I don't know what Aeneas's father did, but doesn't seem like he did something too bad. But then again, who knows? I mean, for some reason, when I heard Elysium and the way they describe it, it makes me think of the temperance card. I don't know why. It's like the rivers of Elysium, or in the temperance card, the sea that the temperance is poking his toe in, is that the river of Styx? The river that you're not supposed to drink out of? I mean, it's debatable at this point. Here it is. Temperance card. Look at the river. You have the sun in the background, even though this is an angel. Unless, unless this could possibly depict an immortal angel that is not, that, is no longer affected by drinking of the river of Styx. And that's the thing when it comes to tarot. It's up to your interpretation, but the deeper that we get into, like the philosophy of it, my mind is shaping up to look at this in a different light. But I've told you guys before in a live that I have a book that pretty much says that the basis of the tarot, the creation of the cards, was to serve an evil purpose. If we go back to the beginning of, because the tarot, I think, was actually, it was a card game, but it really to trick the rich and stuff like that, especially during the time when it pertains to wars and people trying to captivate lands and stuff like that. And they did use the tarot for that. So, woo. And then, you know, Aleister Crawley, I wouldn't peg him to be super love and light, in my opinion. But let's continue with this story. So, Aeneas found his father in the fields of Elysium, where reside the virtuous dead, and after learning from him about the future destiny of Rome, he emerged from Hades through the ivory gate, the gate of false dreams. What tarot card do you think you would depict with that? Because a part of me still is leaning towards the Temperance card, but maybe another card, maybe. Because after Aeneas spoke to his dad in the field of the virtuous dead, so people that, it's like people that like die with a purple heart. Now, if you die with a purple heart, why the hell are you in Hades? Please explain. But anyway, so after he learned about the prophecy of the future of Rome, he then emerged from Hades through the ivory gate. But the ivory gate is considered the gate of false dreams. So I wonder, could that be the moon card? Because the moon has pillars on it as well. Um I can't think of any other good ones really that could be besides moon maybe or temperance. If we're talking about the gate of false dreams, because the moon in reverse can be illusion, false dreams, false prophecies, a false prophet, a liar. It can be that. Um hmm I'm trying to think because there's like how many cards? I don't know how many, 72, 78, something like that. So there's a lot of cards that the gate of false dreams may possibly signify. I'm assuming they want me to make sure I'm okay with the groceries that they changed. Yes. Okay, I guess that's fine. Okay, anyway, I'm trying to think of what other card that could be. The gate of false dreams. I should know this. This is like a quiz. Hmm, what could that be? You know what? It just dawned on me. The star. Because if you think about the star tarot card, if you think about the star tarot card in this reverse position, what does that mean to you? What does that say? Star is hopes and dreams and inspiration. But can the star not also be false hope? The star is Aquarius, right? Aquarius is Uranus. Uranus is tied to the kingdom of heaven or associated with Zeus if we're talking about the ruler over heavens. But if you kind of think about Zeus and his story and how he's all over the place, in my opinion, I may kind of peg Zeus in a way of somebody who may give you more false promises than Hades. Whereas Hades to me is kind of given, I'm putting it in writing, I'm putting it on paper of what you need to do in order to get to me. There is no gray area. There is no, it could be this, it could be that. No, it's very simple as you need to kill your spouse, kill a child, kill an animal, kill something, but I need blood. It's very set in stone. Whereas Zeus, you don't know. So sometimes I can see the star depending on the cards that are surrounding it or if it's in a reverse position. Sometimes I can see the star as being that element of false hope because also, since the star is tied to Aquarius, which is tied to humanity, think about how even in humanity, people will try to shit on your dreams. That is like the embodiment of the star in its reverse position. Abandonment, worthlessness, feeling like a failure. And a lot of that doesn't even, those words don't even really have to exist, but it's simply the matter of you've let humanity convince you that your dreams, are stupid. So, and then also I can see Aquarius, and I can see that star in reverse being that element of you're feeling abandoned or you're feeling betrayed because you feel lied to. Because there's a certain level of morality, values associated with Uranus, because again, it is that higher octave because it's supposed to be signifying heaven. You know what I'm saying? So, that's just my opinion. Just reading this and digging deeper into it, I can see that in a manner how maybe in some sort of a way that gate of false dreams, maybe it could be the star, maybe it can be the temperance card, maybe it can be the moon. The moon, if you look at the depiction of the moon, it looks somewhat of like two pillars that may resemble a gate, but you don't see the actual gate, but they can just represent the columns that holds the gate up. But the gate at that particular time could just be open. So to finish off this story, oh, would you look at this? The Christian conception of hell shares similarities with Hades as a place for the dead, many of whom exist in torment. Hades, however, includes its own paradise. What I say? That temperance card is very telling, isn't it? Because if we want to, it's almost one of those things. If we're going to categorize Zeus as an angel, why is Hades also not an angel? He wasn't given dominion over the underworld because he technically did anything bad. They defeated the Titans, they defeated their father Kronos' Titans, and that's what happened. And then Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades were then given their jobs by other Titans. Nowhere in that text did it say they did anything stupid. But of course, we're going to associate Zeus with he did something really good to be able to get a hold of heaven, and Hades did something really bad. No, that's not the story at all. They drew sticks, and Hades lost. So he got the shorter end of the stick. But and I'm not saying anything of what goes on in the underworld is correct, but I'm saying it as Hades is up front with his shit, whereas Zeus may not be. Nowhere in the text that we talked about Hades and Persephone does it say that Hades is out here, having sex with all these people and creating all these babies. For Hades, it was Persephone and Persephone only, and she knew that. He didn't hide that fact. He also didn't hide who he was. Hence, where it almost seems like based off of the Iliad and based off of like, Odysseus's account and stuff like that, it almost comes across like people were more interested in going to Hades than going to heaven. Because at least in Hades, I know what I'm getting myself into. I know you either respect me or you hate me. I know that to you, I'm either dirty or I'm not. Oh my God. It wasn't plugged in. Can you hear me now? My thing wasn't plugged in. Oh my goodness. Sorry. I'm gonna. Can you guys not hear me now? You should be able to hear me now. My thing is pulsating. So you should. The thing unplugged. So I'm like, I know you guys saw me going through the chart. I know you saw that part. Okay. Okay, thank you. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to like not sit on the mic a minute thinker. Okay, so let me reverse. So this is Mike Tyson's chart. What I did, I pulled up asteroid Hades, which let me go back so you guys can see, which in this particular system on astro.com, if you try to do this for your own chart, you have to click on this right here, list of other horoscope factors and hypothetical planets, because technically Hades or Pluto is considered technically a hypothetical. So we have to go here to figure out where it's at. And then you click it, it pops up over here in manual entry, and then we go show chart. Thank you, Londa, for texting me. Um, so this is where we're at. So again, Hades asteroid, or in this particular instance, it can show us where we have ancient wisdom. Now, Mike Tyson has his ancient wisdom planet in the ninth house of our godlike complex, but is also sitting in the sign of the bull. Think about the bull's anger, but also I can see Taurian placements giving you a show when it pertains to fighting because it's the bull. So we could say that the ancient wisdom that Mike Tyson brought over from his past life can be that tied to fighting. It's embedded almost like in his DNA. It's encoded in his DNA. And he probably doesn't even know. He can't even tell you where it came from. He may give us something like maybe it might. No, 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 no. This is probably something, and especially with it being in the ninth house of that godlike complex, this is probably something that he has been preparing for many lifetimes. But it also is his downfall because we know Hades is loneliness, vulgarity, it's crime, it's poverty. It's not shocking that his crimes were published in tabloids, right? That's ninth house energy. But since we're talking about past lives, we can even maybe say that he could have been some type of warrior. He could have been involved in maybe like the Battle of Troy, Helen of Troy, or something like that. He, I hate to say it, maybe he could have been a colonizer. Um, and I don't even know what Hades is making an aspect. Oh, his Hades is making an aspect to Pluto, of course. It's making an aspect to Neptune. It's making an aspect to his Uranus. And his Neptune is actually coming into the fourth house. So this can go one or two ways. He had to fight because he was fighting for the release he was fighting because his ancestors were being held captive. That's number 1. We could say that. Number 2, he may have been the enforcer of like being like a slave owner or something like that. Since we have Neptune, we know Neptune is tied to the sea, right? And it is again going into the fourth house of our roots, our real estate. So remember I said he may have been a colonizer. He may have been stealing lands, something like that. And if that's the case, his godlike complex or his Hades in ninth house, it's not shocking to me that he had like this humongous fall from grace. It's almost like it was predestined because it's almost like if that was the case, you have to pay for your crimes against humanity. You have to pay for your crimes based off what you did in your past life. And not to mention, he has his Saturn in the 8th. Mike Tyson has some very heavy past life karma, especially when it pertains to love. So the captive, he could have been holding women captive. Women could have been his prisoners. He could have did that in his past life because his Saturn is in his 8th house of our past life, of our ancestors. His moon's in the 4th house of our ancestors, of our past life. But also, you know what? Your 4th house is also the protection that you receive from your spiritual team. So a crappy 4th house, no offense, can possibly signify that you need to do some extra work to maybe appease your ancestors or whatever you want to call it, so that your protection can be upped. Okay. But it also could just be maybe your ancestors in the past were not as strong. So your mission in this lifetime could be to build their strength, you know. Also, eighth house is legacies. So even though Mike Tyson probably came from poverty, with him having, you know, that Saturn in his eighth house, this gives me a legacy child. I don't care if he grew up on the street. It's almost like he was meant to be a legacy. But this is based off of past life. This is my opinion. Okay? I just want to give you guys like an idea. And I think the 15 degrees of Taurus is actually fame. So that goes along with what my theory is. I appreciate you guys for really telling me that I was on mute. Okay? That lets me know that you're really interested in what I'm talking about. But I'm about to wrap this up because I am starving like Marvin. So the 15 degrees of Taurus: music, stubborn, self-assurance, lucky marriage, relaxation. Relaxation to me, that seems like it's like everything's paid for. And it's in the sign of Venus. It makes me think of an easy life. Now, someone that may have Hades and Mars may not be so easy. The boat ride may not be so smooth. So this here can almost be an example that even if in his past life he was a shitty person, it's almost like he's not really having to pay for that in gold in this lifetime, if that makes sense. Like he still has the gold. Now he may not have the peace of mind. That may be the karma that he is having to deal with, but he's not poor. Even though in his past life he could have been a slave owner, he could have sold people enslaved, he could have like sold people into slavery, he could have imprisoned and enslaved women, he could have did all of that to receive money. But even in this current lifetime, it's almost like that meant nothing because he still has money. So karma is a very interesting thing because even if somebody is a shitty person in the past, they can still be laced in gold in this time period, you know? So, and that concludes our live for today, people. Okay, so questions, comments, concerns, ideas for the next live. I actually thoroughly enjoyed this, and I really do appreciate you guys for letting me get some things off of my chest because I appreciate that. But what should we do next? What's going to be the next one? We talked about Hades. Should we go on over to Zeus or should we do another one? Um, I don't think we did Aries. We haven't did Athena yet. Um, we haven't did Apollo, which is the sun. We could do that. But I know, call me crazy, but again, you guys know how I am. I give you the utmost respect if you can just be honest with yourself. So if you're a crappy person and you tell me you're a crappy person, you got my respect. Cuz I don't have to you don't it's no gray tape. It's no line in the sand. You are what you are. So yeah, I actually really did enjoy the story of Hades and learning more about that and looking at some of the tarot card symbolism. I actually really did enjoy that. And to be honest, that just makes my heart flutter. I could do this all day. To be honest, I could. So, I enjoy doing these because it's fun. It's fun stuff. It's a lot of information. It's like I'm back in school again, but the fun part of school. So I will be back. I don't know when I'm going to do a live again about this, but I will be back like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Okay. I love you guys always. And again, I really appreciate you. And I will see you soon.